What else did I want to say about this book? Hello. How's it going? It's Thursday, April 22nd. I'm eating some oatmeal. Don't look at it. It's gross looking, but it's delicious. But it looks pre-chewed. I think it's time for another vlog, friends. There is exactly zero rhyme or reason to when I record these vlogs, but here we go. I've been thinking for a while that for Mother's Day, which is in a couple weeks, I want to do a video all about books where mothering is a major theme, which is a lot of books. There are many, many books that could fit that category. But there are currently 2 books on my TBR that I think would fit really well with that. So I'm gonna read those both this week in preparation. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do this vlog. That does mean I'm gonna have this vlog about books on mothering and then this video with even more books on mothering. But you know, it's just the way it goes. All right, so the 2 books on my TBR right now that I want to make sure to read: Breasts and Eggs by Kawakami and Pure Flame by Michelle Orange. This is fiction, Japanese author. This is nonfiction, and this is an arc, comes out in June. I'm pumped about both of these books. I think I'm probably gonna start with the fiction. On a sweltering summer day, Makiko travels from Osaka to Tokyo, where her sister Natsuko lives. She's in the company of her daughter, Midoriko, who has lately grown silent, finding herself unable to voice the vague yet overwhelming pressures associated with adolescence. We love vague yet overwhelming pressures. One of Japan's most important and best-selling writers, Kawakami mixes stylistic inventiveness, check, wry humor, check, and riveting emotional depth, check, to tell a story of contemporary womanhood, check. I have high hopes for this. So I'm gonna get my day started, do some work, and then I'll check back in with you all once I've had a chance to read some of this bad boy. Hi, I'm sitting here at my desk. I read exactly 14 pages while I ate my oatmeal. It's getting some work done. In case you guys didn't know, today is Earth Day, and we know it's Earth Day because of all the emails in our inbox trying to sell us stuff. How's it going? How is everybody this afternoon? I've read about 50 pages of breast mix, which is not a lot, but I'm a busy woman, so give me a break. I'm really enjoying it so far. Our narrator is a 30-year-old named Natsuka, an aspiring writer. She lives in Tokyo, and she is being visited by her older sister and her older sister's daughter. Her older sister wants to get breast implants, which our narrator is not fully understanding the motivations behind. Sister's name is Makiko, and the daughter's name is Midoriko. Niece is a teen. She's an age that you could not pay me $1 million to be again. And she has stopped speaking to her mother completely. She hasn't spoken a word at home in 6 months. What I really enjoy about the book is that interspersed with the first-person narrative is passages from this teen niece's diary. So we're getting to see 2 perspectives simultaneously, exploring questions of the female body from really different experiences. What else? Oh, we know that the narrator and her sister grew up very poor, were raised by a single mother. That cycle seems to be repeating itself with the sister and niece. The sister is also a single mother. She's working as a hostess, which seems to have some escorty vibes. I'm not really sure exactly yet. Lots of themes about body image, reproduction, motherhood, lots of questions of class, cycles of poverty. Sounds great, right? I'm gonna make dinner. Justin is out right now getting some beers, I believe. We're gonna have dinner and keep watching the Hemingway documentary. Hemingway's a real psycho. He's got some issues. I wouldn't call him like a woman lover. Real issues with his mother.
Or tie 5 together so they won't float out. Or smell that smell you thought you'd never smell again. Leftist writers now praised Hemingway's newfound empathy for the proletariat.
Good morning. It's Friday. It's 7 a.m. I'm making coffee. Excuse the bedhead. All right, let me get my coffee set up and then I'm gonna... So, I read... Now I have to grind the beans. So I read, sorry if you can hear that boiling. So I read more of Breasts and Eggs before bed last night. There was a pretty transphobic scene. It was hard to read. Our protagonist is at a bathhouse in Tokyo and a not cis person, she calls this person a tomboy, which is a pretty outdated term, shows up and she internally questions this person's right to be at this all women's bathhouse. Yeah, it was hard to read. I think that our narrator is starting from a place in which she has this very traditional understanding of what it means to be female, right? Reproductive organs, breasts, eggs. And she's evolving in her understanding of womanhood and femininity and gender and sex and all of these things. At least that is 70 pages in. My hope for how this story goes. I think it's foreshadowed in this scene in which she internally questions the tomboy in the bathhouse because she runs through sort of a dream sequence in which she imagines what would happen if she were to say something to this person, like, why are you here? In this imaginary dream sequence, she is confronted with this idea that basically that gender doesn't exist or that there's no such thing as male and female. So I think she is evolving, her thinking is evolving, she's exploring what that means. I think I'm curious to read more. I am curious to think more about this question. So that was a lot pre-coffee. The kettle's about to beep. Hello, 'tis me. I finished my workday. Hallelujah, it's the weekend. Our friends are coming over in a little bit for tacos. We're gonna grill, and I made some black beans and some cabbagey slaw, and we're gonna have some margaritas, and my friends bring over a gluten-free key lime pie. So life is good. Time to check in with you about this book. So it's broken up into two books, book one and book two. I finished book one. I would say the strongest thing about the book for me by far is the passages of the teenage daughter's journal that we get access to. And they're such a strong voice of what it feels like to be a 13-year-old girl and hear what your friends are talking about and sort of fear-mongering around going through puberty and getting your period and how scary that is. And also the major theme to me in this book is about the sacrifice that mothers make for the next generation. The sacrifice of all these single mothers trying to provide for their daughters. Then there's Makiko talking about how she sacrificed her body literally. She sacrificed her breasts to sustain the life of her infant. There's a sense on the part of Midoriko that she feels this burden. She's aware of feeling like her mother has sacrificed so much for her and she sort of resents that. And that puts this strain on their relationship that there's no way to have this even playing field between them, which I find very relatable. There was that scene in which the character had these transphobic thoughts around a non-cis person in the bathhouse, and I'm feeling frustrated that that didn't really come around. I sort of felt like this is a sort of like a learning moment, and we're gonna see how this is part of a transformation of this character, her understanding of the separation of sex and gender and I didn't feel fulfilled in that, and it sort of feels like that passage is potentially traumatizing to readers. It didn't serve a greater purpose for the narrative. I'm not sure that it was necessary to the narrative. I'm gonna be curious to read reviews. I really haven't read any reviews or heard anyone really talk about this book. I just saw that it was like well received. Curious to see if that comes up. And I'm excited to read book 2 and see how that goes. I think this is what the kids call a fit check.
You can say that. The rest of us normal people are just terrified.
If it breaks when they're doing it, I never know if I should be like, I want to.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, that will.
Set. Will it set? That's a classic question of Great British Bake Off.
Oh god, have you guys watched the pottery throwdown?
How are you this morning, Hushpuppy? It's Saturday morning. We're getting ready to go for a little hike. We have some friends who live in Boston, so we're gonna meet them in Massachusetts, halfway between here and there, and go for a little hike and maybe find a little brewery. It's a beautiful day. I have read exactly 0 pages. Oh, my friend just stopped by to give me a hug because she's fully vaccinated and I haven't hugged her in a year. It was so nice. What was I saying? Oh, I was saying that I haven't read a single page of my book since yesterday, which is fine. We had a lovely evening. I'll probably read in the car today. We had such a nice time yesterday. We were sitting in the backyard. Justin grilled some stuff for tacos, and we all looked around and realized we were all fully vaccinated, so we came inside. We had 6 people at the dining room table for the first time in so long. It was so nice. My friend Jessica, who you've seen here before because she's my pod friend, which means she's been my only friend for the past year. She made a beautiful key lime pie, and I really gorged myself. It was amazing. And now we're headed to Massachusetts. We're gonna do a little hiking, some beer drinking, and hopefully some reading. And then we'll probably come home and veg out and watch some more Hemingway documentary. Happy Sunday, Hushpuppy. It's a rainy day. What are your thoughts on Hemingway, Hushpuppy? Narcissist or courageous?
Yeah, because you have to be one or the other. You can't be both.
Think we know what your dad's opinion is. What do you think? Look at all that chest hair. Hemingway would be envious. Hello. It's a pretty gross rainy day here, so it's a day for errands. I just got back from the grocery store and the Target. You want to see what we got? I know you really want to see what we got. Okay. All right. Sensitive toothpaste because I have sensitive teeth. Thrilling stuff. I'm gonna paint my nails later today. This is the only tofu they had in the whole store, which is truly infuriating. And we buy the cheap dog food and the cheap toilet paper. What do you think about that? I'm gonna finish putting away these groceries and then probably work out. Catch up on some tubes. I know my girl Iggs has a vlog, so I gotta go watch that. I haven't done a ton more reading in Breasts and Eggs, but there was a great passage I read about how daughters resent their mothers, and the cycle always continues. And the phrase was used referring to mothers as free labor with pussies. That's a strong phrase. I'm gonna mull that one over. We're definitely gonna be thinking about that one. Clean sheets. She a beaut. It's me, your friend Rebecca. I'm getting ready to start the dinner thing Sunday night. Let's find a way to put you down while I shave this guy. All right, so I'm about 350 pages in, making progress. Book 2, let's talk about what happens there. Natsuko is still our narrator. It's about 10 years in the future, and she has become a successful writer. Let me move my compost. She is deciding if she wants to have a child. She's thinking about becoming a single mother. This term is not used, but I guess she is asexual. She says she does not enjoy having sex. She's not interested in sex. She wants to have this child through artificial insemination. And this book is basically a long exploration into whether or not she wants to do that, which I think is a really interesting question, although unfortunately a lot of the question seems to be around if it's ethical, and that I find to be not an interesting question. Is it right for you is much more interesting than is it right or wrong. Something I think is really interesting is the book takes place in Tokyo, and the earthquake that occurred there is definitely a looming part of the consciousness of these characters. The question is sort of, is it ethical to bring kids into the world using artificial insemination, which again, I think is not a really interesting question. And then there's also the question of is it ethical to bring kids into the world at all? And I think that the earthquake is part of that calculation and thinking about it that way. It is a little too long. I would say it needs a bit of an editor. Natsuko, the narrator, does seem to be continuing to explore what makes gender. Again, I think that's a really interesting question. I'm not sure that it's explored as interestingly in this book as I'd want it to be. In the first half, we saw that really transphobic scene in which she basically is claiming that sex equals gender. And that was And then in the second half, she talks about being asexual. And she says, sometimes because I don't enjoy having sex, I wonder if I'm not a real woman. And then it's so you're saying that heterosexuality or sexuality or sexual desire makes you a woman? What makes a woman? What makes gender? I think is a really interesting question. And your sexual organs and who you want to have sex with are the two least interesting answers that there could be to that. And maybe I'm not getting it. I don't know. I'm not done yet. So I'm gonna finish the book and then see, but I'm confused about that. So I'll finish that up. I'm working on dinner. We're having an Asian tofu larb rice noodle situation. I'll show you pictures when I'm done. Final product. You enjoyed it, the Hemingway documentary?
I enjoyed it very much, yes.
Do you think he's the great American writer?
Certainly one of them. Do you think he's the great American writer?
No. Who do you think loves being married more, Hemingway or you?
Do you think that any of Hemingway's wives asked him stupid questions like that? Maybe.
Probably not Martha.
Maybe questions like that were why he needed 4 wives.
Martha Gellhorn, probably her questions were probably slightly more sophisticated. All right, what do you rate the documentary out of 5?
Oh, 5.
5 out of 5?
Yeah.
Is this Ken Burns' greatest work? This is no Civil War.
No.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I enjoyed it. That's a good rating.
Okay. How can anybody be as interesting as Hemingway?
What about me?
I love you.
Hi. It's Monday evening. I had like a bajillion meetings today. Hey, buddy. I finished Breasts and Eggs. This book was seriously billed as extremely feminist. To be honest, I didn't read a lot about it or watch any reviews or anything like that. All the blurbs, everything is like, this is a feminist text. And like, to me, it read as deeply not that. I mentioned that in the second half of the book, it's all about Natsuko deciding whether or not she wants to have artificial insemination to have a baby because she's single and she's asexual. The decision about like whether or not to be a mother is something I find interesting. The conversation around whether or not it is ethical to have a baby through artificial insemination is like a really boring argument to me. That sounds like anti-science, deeply traditional family value bullshit. And then the conversation does shift sort of a little bit to, well, is it ethical to bring a new child into the world at all? Which is slightly more interesting, but also I think there's something deeply wrong with as I was saying, I think there's something deeply wrong with putting the life or wants or desires of an unborn fetus before that of a potential mother or a currently alive person of any kind. That argument I also find to be not interesting. Almost every character in this book is a woman. Our narrator in first person have all of her female friends, everyone in her circle is female, her sister, her niece. The only male character in the end is the voice of reason who has all the information and tells her what she should do and makes the decision for her essentially, which is infuriating and I find so obnoxious. Completely not feminist in any way. Part of me is like, am I dumb? Do I not get it? Part of me is like, is this a cultural thing? Is this like me reading this from my Western-centric lens? I'm sure that's true, at least in some part. But yeah, I don't get it. I'm gonna go put some dinner in my body. Do you have a bear? How is everyone? It's Tuesday, like midday. Kind of in a funk today. I'm languishing. I did start Pure Flame. Thoughts so far? I'm not sure. I'm very intrigued by the themes, the premise. So it is a memoir. It's sort of like a prolonged critical essay. It explores references to theorists and writers, and then it is a memoir of her relationship with her mother and her mother's relationship with her mother. I think the central question is like, who do we look up to as feminists if we can't look up to our mothers? This understanding that feminism by definition is always changing, right? It comes in waves. Feminism and feminist choices and actions for her grandmother in the 1920s are very different than they are for a woman today. So I am intrigued by that premise and I am definitely interested to keep reading. 2 chapters in. The prose, the writing style isn't like totally captivating. It's not my favorite style. I can't exactly pinpoint why. But I have Coven sitting on my bedside table, and as I'm reading this, I'm like, ooh, but I could be reading Rachel Cusk, and that would be so much better. But we'll see. I have some book mail. I have this book, Things We Lost to the Water. It's a stunning debut novel about an immigrant Vietnamese family. I love New Orleans. I spent a lot of time there back in the day. I have a really embarrassing crawfish tattoo I got on Magazine Street once. This looks good. I'm really excited about this. Another one I got is Leonora in the Morning Light. I don't think I requested this. This is Avid Reader Press. People at Avid Reader Press are so wonderful and kind. It's possible they just sent this to me. But it is a historical novel. 1940. Leonora Carrington is a 20-year-old British socialite. Yeah, I don't know. Did anybody have thoughts about this? Anybody read this or read anything about this? Doesn't really sound like me. We'll see. And then I have this in the mail today. Let's see what's in here. It's really weird. It's another copy of Second Place. They sent me the ARC and now they sent me the finished copy. That's very kind. I'll definitely be giving this one away because I love plenty of smart women who need to read this book. It's so good. I will find a good home for this. How beautiful is Rachel Cusk? So that's my book mail. As I said, I'm kind of in a funk today, so I'm gonna go it's lunchtime, I'm gonna go take Hushpuppy for a long walk and hope that that clears the funk right out the system, washes it right out. And then I'm gonna go back to work for the rest of the day. I'm at my desk working on some really high quality Mother's Day card for my mother. Recycling old stationery. She's gonna love it. We love a pun. Hi friends, it is Wednesday. I switched up my work situation today because it's our annual conference at work this week, today and tomorrow. And I thought I would sit at the desk down here in the living room because the background's a little more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I'm gonna do this all day on Zoom. But how cute are my little barrettes? Can you see them? They feel like pretty wild for an academic conference. Like, look at me subverting your patriarchal expectations and norms on my professional dress. Just kidding, but they're cute, right? Is lime green the color of the summer? Let me know. I'm gonna confer at this conference now. I'm sitting here at this desk that I never sit at in the living room, and I had to show you this. My husband and I eloped at San Francisco City Hall. My mother-in-law had coasters made. Gonna put a bevy right down on that face today. So good, right? This isn't gonna be about books. I apologize in advance. Sorry, I'm gonna finish Pure Flame today, I promise. This is about shoes. I want to show you my shoes, but don't judge my feet, okay? I don't like my feet. I have, like many of you, I believe, several weddings to attend in the post-COVID universe. About these shoes. What do you think?
Then you assumed that it was for you? You're not the only one in this house that gets books. I read too sometimes.
What did you get?
I got the new Louis Mann book about
Oh, right.
the Cold War.
Thrilling. Looks like a light read.
Yes, I know. It's not some man-hating screed about terrible men and terrible menish things that they do, but...
Oh, that sounds good. Wait, could you tell me where to find that? That sounds really, really good.
Let me take a look upstairs or on that shelf over there. I think I can probably find something on that feed.
It is Thursday afternoon. I finished my work conference for the week and I finished Pure Flame. Let's talk about Pure Flame. Pure Flame is a memoir by Michelle Orange about her relationship with her mother as her mother is dying and an exploration of the legacy of feminism that is passed down from mothers to their daughters. Michelle Orange's mother was a CEO in the finance world in the 80s. This meant that she left Michelle with her father and moved to another town and did not see her except for on weekends when she was growing up. Michelle grows up with this anger around her mother choosing career over motherhood. The question at the center of this book is so good. What of feminism do we inherit from our mothers? This idea that we inherit opportunity from previous generations of feminists. We only have the opportunities we have because they came before. But in order to take advantage of those ever greater opportunities, we have to reject and shun the lives that our mothers had. Is this a rejection of our mothers, or is this a continuation of our mothers? Are we our mothers' immortality moving forward? Do we keep them alive by continuing to carry on? Or are we destroying them by saying that we want something different? The conceit of this book is perfect for me. I love that question. The execution, not perfect for me. I think the writing style was just not my favorite, but also I lost the thread a couple times, and I wanted her to go deeper and give me more about her relationship with her mother. She seems a little hesitant to fully scratch at that. I think she relies too heavily on the diaries of other feminists, Susan Sontag, Susan Faludi, the Susies, Simone de Beauvoir's memoir. I think she relies too heavily on their writings for those vulnerable pieces, doesn't do enough personal introspective discovery. Interestingly, this book really falls short for me in one way that this book, the other book I read this week, really succeeds. So as I mentioned, I had really mixed feelings about breasts and eggs. It's been a couple days and I've reflected on my experience with this book. I think that the reason this book really sent me into an existential crisis is because I liked the writing, and usually that's enough. I really liked the style of writing, and I almost always care only about that, and if the style of writing is good, then that's all that matters. And it didn't carry me through in this book, so I am having a crisis of identity. The one thing I think this book was great on is class. Specifically, this book illustrates the widening gap of income inequality, and because there's a disappearing middle class, it impacts a woman's ability to be independent, to not be married, to have children and support a child without a husband is nearly impossible if the middle class does not exist. While this book, as I mentioned, failed for me on feminism, it had a lot to say about class distinction that I found to be powerful. While this book is like pretty tone deaf on class, I gotta say. There is a scene where she and her mother go to a spa in Mexico multiple times, and I looked it up and it's like $1,000 a day. This book lacks an understanding or an exploration or discussion of intersectional feminism in a pretty glaring way to me. All in all, it was a weird week of reading. The goal was to read these books in preparation for my video on mothering. And I don't know if I'm gonna include these books in that video. After having a few days to marinate on breasts and eggs, I think not. There are just so many great books about mothering that the question of mothering in this book just didn't do it for me. And this, I'm not sure. I'm gonna think some more about this one over the next couple days. Oh, guys, guess what happened to me today? Guess what happened to us today? Your girl hit 1K. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm pretty excited about it. 1,000 subscribers. And my understanding is that when you hit 1K, you do a Q&A. That's the rules. I don't make the rules. I did put a post up on the grams if you want to leave a question there, or you can leave a question in the comments that you'd like me to answer in my Q&A vid. I will link my IG downstairs, as my boy Ben says. I'll link it downstairs. Okay, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here with me this week. I really appreciate it. As always, please let me know in the comments below if you've read either of these books and if you have any thoughts about them. I'll see you in the next one. Love you, nerds!